Greetings, and sorry I'm not with you personally tonight, but congratulations on focusing on what really is both the most elusive quest for humans, seeking peace, and yet, when experienced, the most exhilarating thing that allows societies to flourish. I'm one who largely believes that war has outlived its usefulness, that whatever purposes we think war achieves, largely we know enough now to say those ends are rarely achieved. That the choice to go to war, as much as it's justified, is rarely the right choice. Now, there may be some exceptions, but when we talk about peace and conflict, we know that irregular armies have been the main form of war throughout human history. Armies that are simply conventional in the sense of fighting for territory have always found it difficult to deal with what are called guerrillas. That was a term first used by the Spanish for the little wars, the little irregular wars of hit and run in Vietnam, soldier by night, farmer by day, which is a way of saying that force and power and military might of itself does not deal just with irregular wars. We have to deal with the causes of war, the instability economically, the conflicts ethnically. We have to find ways to mediate, to deal with what causes these irregular wars to continue to flourish in human history. Of course, peace is elusive. When people of the world try and work out what drives war, often it is deep prejudice and bigotry. You know, 40 apes that have been breeding for the last 40 years in a zoo have more genetic diversity than the whole of the human race. What that means is that what we think is so different about us, our colour, in a genetic sense, is not different at all. It's far more different in apes than us. That black and white or yellow, which we think are so profound, and linguistic or religious differences so profound, actually we are sharing a common story, a common genetic code. So with that knowledge, it becomes a little easier to say, let's find the common points. Let's not highlight the differences. Let's not allow bigotry to overwhelm us. Bigotry exists even in the finest leaders. We rightly celebrate Abraham Lincoln. You might have seen the film for abolishing slavery and the 13th Amendment. Did you realize Abraham Lincoln didn't actually believe when he became president in abolishing slavery? He just wanted slavery to not be extended into the new territories, the Arizonas and New Mexicos. In fact, when Lincoln proclaimed emancipation, the Emancipation Proclamation, he still firmly believed blacks would never vote, would never intermarry with whites, that they couldn't be jurors. In fact, those emancipated would need to be sent back to Africa, to somewhere like Liberia, because in his mind, a person of his times, he still saw colour as summing up everything. A war that cost 620,000 lives over the right to keep other humans as slaves, assuming they were inferior and fundamentally different, was fought. And Lincoln got to the 13th Amendment and his conviction that slavery was wrong in every sense. But it took a civil war, a massive civil war that divided families. Well, whether the causes of war are bigotry and colour, or religion, or economic interests, at one level, the South in the Civil War in America was fighting for its economic interest, that it was just so easy to make more money with people as slaves. We need to name the causes. We need to deal with those causes on the understanding that we have so much in common, that we not only share a genetic code in common, but every human aspires for something better for their children, for a family that flourishes, a community that flourishes, for respect, for a sense that the world and markets aren't rigged so that if they work really hard, they will at least get a fair go to be able to keep what they earn, what they make from the sweat of their brow. In fact, that sweat of the brow was the argument for Abraham Lincoln well before he ever could come to thinking that blacks could ever vote or ever intermarry. He said at least the slave should be able to earn his bread from the sweat of his brow, not a white master earn it. Lincoln started with slavery as an economic issue. He never really quite got over the colour issue. Well, whether it's economic or colour or religion or ethnic, peace is what every human heart actually aspires for. The individual preferences in the human heart are what we call values, what we name as the good, what we name as bad. We need to join together in being very clear that what we have in common is what we agree on is good. It's the absence of war. It's the flourishing of society. It's the giving people a chance to be able to have rules that allow them to keep what they earn, to take respect from their work and their lives. I know these are thoughts that Rotary for so many years have championed, which is why you are an extraordinary organisation. And I take my hat off to you. And in thinking about peace and conflict, I want to leave you with one challenge. One of the great leaders of the world was Oscar Arias Sanchez. He was the president of Costa Rica. First, he worked to solve conflict within his region, Central America, and won a Nobel Peace Prize. Then he looked around and he literally said, who is going to attack Costa Rica? Why are we spending so much in military? He came to the conclusion that military expenditure was a perversion of the priorities of our civilization. You know what he did? He abolished the military. He put the spending of defence into health and education and social protections. He said famously, you won't see people with guns and tanks in our streets, you'll see kids with textbooks. That's our value. Well, no one has attacked Costa Rica. And what Oscar Arias Sanchez said was this: courage means standing with your values, your principles, your convictions, standing with your ideals under all circumstances, no matter what. If you stick to your principles, you will often have to confront powerful interests, the defence budget establishment in his case. Having courage means doing this without fear. It means having courage to change things. He said, I often say that Costa Rica is not now an economic power, but that we want to be someday. Costa Rica is not a military power, and we do not ever want to be. But Costa Rica is already a moral power. This is why we must always be sure to have the courage to do what is right. Rotary and its principles and its ideals are incredibly important for dealing with conflict, for ensuring a flourishing society, which is the definition of peace. Stick to your principles. Thank you.